That's pretty much, let's take, okay, so Discord, okay, possible ADA long. Are you looking at Cardano?
I was looking at Cardano because I was watching the total three. I was just looking at charts last night and I was looking at the total three without that chart that doesn't show, it shows all altcoins except for Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I had a Fibonacci up there and I was looking at it cross the fib and I was like, oh, so we might be getting ready to go up. We going past the 50% line. Um, yeah, yeah. We went past there, but the market came back and snatched that. Oh my goodness.
So take a look at both of these. All right. So let's see here. All right. So what we can do is I'm trying to see
Okay.
these. Hello, 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 hello. Okay. Let me see if I have my Wi-Fi's picking it up. Let me see if this some of the PC. Level. So microphone. I think the only audio is actually coming from the Discord. So this all works out. It works perfect. And it has audio, just it's a little delayed. Okay,
But
so
will the audio be on the replay when I go back to look at the video?
okay. Okay, so it'll be slightly delayed, but we'll be all right. Okay, so now let's go over the trades. Now these are down the trade. Because you've seen the golden pocket setting up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's basically so this is where what this we kind of talk about patterns and all these things that you learn in trading, right? So you have there's the bull flags and golden pockets, and there's all these things that people use to trade. And then when you have the indicators, you can then apply the indicators and the system to like know what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So even on the Cardano trade, you're still waiting for the one to cross.
Yeah.
Okay, so that what happened was the value wasn't enough to actually make something happen, so that didn't happen.
Exactly.
So see how that's it. Because most of the time you would have took that trade because it looked good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Okay, so now and we get these are good to review and kind of like the through because it's a great way to understand. You can apply all these other training techniques, but
Mm-hmm.
you need the system to really verify what's happening. All right, guys, so get the lights in there. We're gonna go over here. This is her learning the trades. If you guys are on TikTok, this is basically live student trading. So this is a trading course that we do live on TikTok right now. Because a lot of people can sit back and kind of explain their tradings and their trades, but it only matters if you can do it. Okay, so don't get to share the live, put it over there. So we're gonna take a look here. So what I'm looking at posted the possible Ethereum long 2 hour cross entry. ETH entry long 42.11. So you know you didn't put your price that you entered on my section. I can see that it's 4:13 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
I can go back and I can look at that. So I can take a look at 12:29 a.m. and see your possible ETH long 2 hour cross. So let's go back and let's get to 12:30 a.m. last night. So let me move all this stuff around. And then we can kind of like break down your what you were putting together. Okay, so I'm gonna slide it to okay. And then last night we were looking for the 12:30 crossing. It's that's 2400. Okay, yeah, so 1 o'clock. So yeah, you were right on it.
Yeah.
I think it's the blue box. It kind of like shows up there. I'm gonna put mine at the 1 o'clock. All right, I'll make it blue. There's your 12. Okay, so I like it because you have a possible Ethereum long crossing entry at 12:30. Now it actually happened to cross within that 30 minutes, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you were right on top of that. Great job seeing it come in there. And what we're talking about, guys, is there is a very simple trading pattern that we look for. If you, what you got there? And I think I don't have access to the Discord anymore. You should have access to the Discord then. You're right here, Pito. Let's see. Yeah, you're should be. You're right here. Oh my. It's posted on July 4th. So I'm gonna reply to you, Pito. All right, so yeah. So um, let's let's see how we're doing here. So far, we're going through some steps here, guys. So if you're new to TikTok, new coming in, Alejandro, what up, baby? You're going to see that we're going to do some very simple steps. And as a student, it's very simple because we're going to just repeat the same steps over and over, and then create a very simple trading pocket that will create winning trades every single time. I kind of looked at that watching some people, and they were like, your regular traders, they were like, he was posting his trades. He did some good trades today. And he was like, he's like, it's okay to lose, 4 or 5 trades out of 10. It's like, nobody wins 100% of the trade. And I just kind of laughed. But I'm like, I mean, if you do it, if you have a system in the structure, you can't win every trade. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just kind of like interesting to me. So this is kind of like my goal is to be where we have a system that just wins 100% of the time. So okay, she has her 2 hour crossing. What her 2 hour crossing is she's just looking for a that allows her to have more confidence in the trade that she's about to do, and that comes down to a indicator, which is this indicator called a relative stochastic RSI. a regular RSI. It's a fantastic RSI. And you can see here, there's a dotted line right there. She's waiting for that to cross. So when that cross happens, right, I'm going to put a line. The reason why it's ahead of this where it's crosses because there's a delay. Some people call it a lag. That it's 7. So a lot of times, 7 years, people are like, you can't use indicators that they lag. It's because they can comprehend. You have to anticipate a lag. So it's not that hard. All right, so here we have our line, and she posted here at 1 o'clock last night, July 8th, 1 p.m. in the morning. You can go back to Discord, right? So what she's doing is, so if you're in the Discord, guys, the Discord's free. Tally Trades is in the 10 trade review right here. She's in the free Discord, 10 trade review. She's posting at 12:29 p.m. She is posting, and don't forget to share the live, guys. Share the live. Is posting that there's a possible Ethereum long 2-hour cross, right? It's talking about that. And 30 minutes later, it crossed, which is creating this other section above us, which is what we call a 2-hour trading window, right? Which is basically the beginning of this blue line. So you can see from down here, the blue line goes straight up. This is the box that she's trading. Her second post, see that she has an Ethereum entry long, and she went in at 4:13 a.m. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back. We're going to go to the 15-minute chart. We're just going to simply find the 4:13 area last night, and which is right about here. They did make this a green, lime green box, and that lime green box is simply going to represent her entry. And now we're going to go over. That's actually a really good entry shit. And we're going to go over here, and we're going to walk through the steps to see her process and make sure that her process works out, right? So, okay, so you post the trade, and you said you got in about what price did they say you got in on?
I was just looking for that. I think it was 25.88, 25.48. It was 8 at the end. But how can I go to BitNext and see what my trade? How can I see? Uh-huh.
Trade history.
Okay, on my trade history.
Yeah, so go to BitNext, and like they should have it's the third one over from open. Right, so when you're in your futures.
Okay, in futures. Okay.
Because that's what you're trading.
Right. But I don't see anything about my
position,
history.
open orders, order history.
Open orders and assets. It say positions, open orders, assets. Oh, order history. Okay. Order history. Order history. Okay, here's my Ethereum. And where does it say I got in at?
Okay, the orders will be the order histories will be right on the which price average. So you have type of extension, average price.
2571.56.
2571. So 2570. I'm gonna draw this line, lime green, and we're gonna make it a 2. Okay, and now I'm reading that real quick. Okay, so now we have the entry here. And I got it. So this is where, okay, so I have an entry here at 4:13 a.m. Entry long. Then take a look at the time. 4:13. I guess so.
I don't know, but like I'm thinking about last night when I did that. The time that I wrote on in the Discord wasn't the same time that I Um, cause this I got in this. Do it say the time on here that this started? Uh, this started at order time. Hell, 7, 8. Okay, 27, 7:27, 55. No, it say 27. I should send you a picture of this so you could just see, because I don't know. It says, yeah, 7, 8, 25. Yeah, it says 3:30, 4:30.
4:30. Okay, and let me see something. Okay, so right now we're looking at 14:27. Let me see if I post something here. So what would be okay? So the 14:27, that would actually be 2:27. My Discord is 1 hour behind. My Discord saying it's 1:27.
Okay,
And
1:27.
my time zone is saying to be my time zone saying it's 2:27.
Okay.
So it would be an hour back. So this would be an hour back would be 3:15, which would be right about here. That this would be 11:30, so maybe somewhere around that. Okay, very good. All right. So that means that you don't know how you got to the 2551 area.
2571.
Yeah.
See this? Yeah, that's what it say. 2571.56. I think can I see this time? This one, order details. Let's see what order details say.
Okay. So you would be this would be
I gotta record better because I don't. I should.
15. Okay, so did you end after you posted? Did you enter after you posted or before you posted?
Before I entered before I posted. Like when I wrote when I did the Ada possibility, then I came back and I was looking at Eve.
So right now we're just learning how to post and then.
Yes.
Okay, so we can see here we have our 2 hour window. We'll go back and double check it. And you can see right here the 2 hour window broke, which is perfect. You then should have went back to your 1 hour
Mm-hmm.
just to make sure the 1 hour was moving the same direction.
Mm-hmm.
Check that out. And we can see here when the 1 hour
Mm-hmm.
do a pullback. And which is okay. And then after that pullback, you can see right there, there's a moment where it starts to head back up. gonna put a line there. And what you wouldn't see it there, you would see it here.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be your purple line. That would create the purple box that we're looking for. To be when the 1 hour started to back up, right? Which happens to be your one of the entry that you're looking into there. So then you move up, so that looks good. Okay, so we're pretty solid on it. So we have the 2 hour headed up, the 1 hour's headed up in this section here. So all that looks really good there. Okay, so then the only thing to do is after we get the 1 hour and we're set up in here, is slide to the 15-minute, and then all we're really looking for is the 15-minute to be set up correctly, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you see right here, we have our 2 hour crossing, and then there is the slowdown of after the 2 hour. And that's simply because the 1 hour was starting to head down, right? It's just consolidating here. And then right here, 1 hour starts to head up. And then you have your entry up here. Nice label. And say 571. So right there. So this is our entry point right here. So somewhere off of this candle here, you have your entry. Now, do you have your 15-minute eye signals on?
So I did have my buy signals on. And I also was using the paying I was paying more attention to the 1 hour and the 5 minute. I was kind of, you know how we use those together. I did my 2 hour, I did my 4 hour, I did all of this. And then I started, paying a lot of attention to the 1 hour and the 5 minute, and the 5 minute. Just trying to watch the volume and see was it, a good trade to go into.
The everything's pretty good here. You have your 2 hour and 1 hour's headed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when that 1 hour headed up, your entry could have been off of that 1 hour headed up
Mm-hmm.
about 55, 53. Maybe off this next candle here, 255, 57 area.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There's not too much, let me take a look here to look at the 15-minute, because really what that comes down to is once we have a buy signal we're going to enter, the only thing we really be looking for is the 15-minute to be, the next situation.
Yeah.
When you get that 1 hour, that purple line right here,
Yeah.
that's 15-minute that started headed up here. So that would have triggered on the next candle. We had 255, 58.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, if you miss that and the 15-minute gets to the top, then what you'd be waiting for is you'd be waiting for or estimating, a pullback, waiting for the next 15-minute to pull back.
Mm-hmm.
And then start its movement again, right? So let's take a look at the value. And this is where we can, assess the same scenarios, right? So first thing, what we're looking for is the value to be in a good spot. So you have a green value breaks above the threshold.
Yeah.
It goes into a blue moon, it goes down, and then it starts to head up. Now this is where we talk about putting that alert on that 15-minute move.
Yeah.
But that would have triggered another signal at that 2,560 area.
Mm-hmm.
Two candles here. And then the buy comes with the negative. So the buy comes when there's actually a surge and the value starts to, keep momentum, right? So that could have been another entry point right there, 2556.
Okay.
60, 25, 60.
Okay.
Versus 70.
Yeah.
And yeah, you see that?
Yeah. Yeah, so I should have put up. So when I seen that blue moon, I should have put an alert on that blue moon, and it would have told me.
Minutes. So you should have buy signals on your 15-minute buy signal and
Hmm.
15-minute moves.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Right. So the moons are just the crossings. They're just like the RSIs.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They just
Right, but I should have put an alert there, and it would have alerted me, and that would have been my entry. I would have got in earlier. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm.
bring the signal line. And a lot of times, when you see it here, it's kind of like, and as you start to move along and you learn the value, you're going to see in the value hold the zero right there.
Yeah.
And then after it is on that next candle when it popped up here, that would have created your entry on this next candle right there.
Okay.
Which would have put you in a little different spot because
Mm-hmm.
that here and it gives you an entry at 25 54. It's just a visual where
Yeah.
you can see that it held and now it's breaking. The
Mm-hmm.
only thing you're waiting for on the move is confirmation that you're right.
Yes.
And it's okay to wait. There's really no difference between getting in at 25.54 or waiting for the 25.58.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's all confirmation, but you have enough value here that you can take that risk that this is moving. Plus, you have the 2 hour. See, that's when you have these other things confirming momentum or price action,
Yeah.
right? That is where you get to the point where Joe. That's where you get to the point of being confident that the odds are in your favor.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You are trading the 2 hour, and the 1 hour just hit, and the 15-minute is headed up as well.
Yeah.
So when you see the value pull down and start to head up as well, and it's up, it broke above the 10 threshold, it's way above the zero line. That's
Mm-hmm.
where you be like, this is something. These are, like I said, these are triggers, and these are, patterns that you will start to see, and you will start to build your own system off of it because you'll be like, okay, that's high. Didn't get close to the zero line. It's breaking up right now. The 15's on the way up, and the 1 hour's on the way up. I can jump this trade here. This is where I want to look to get in.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
But it's just, right now, I don't worry about it too much. Stay inside the step because you want to always have confirmation. It is not, the thing about the trade is, we're going to get 2 to 3% moves, but we only need one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, be patient and do confirmations
Yeah.
and start to, in 2 to 3 months where we become very, it's kind of like you see something happen so many times, you start to realize what's happening. So when you see the value above zero so high, I think you have all this other value already,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a 2 hour and you have 1 hour. I mean, it's pretty evident that you could have got into a tripping somewhere off of these candles here, but it's not that it doesn't really change too much overall, but it just allows you to set yourself up a little
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm glad we're going through this because these are the things that I need to learn. These are the things that are missing from my trading um book of knowledge. These are things that I need to learn right here because I'm here to
Yeah.
make money, and so getting in at this point would have made me more money than that the place where I got in at.
What it does is eliminate because the money that's what it's going. Remember the percentages that we're going for.
Mm-hmm.
We're aiming for a 2 to 3% move,
Yeah.
but we're using a 40x, so we only need 1%. So we're only doing a 50-50, meaning the possible high end of a trade half of that possibility and then half of that. So we're already shooting for 25 or 30% of the move. So
Okay.
it's like, we don't worry about the money, it's the
Yeah.
percentage.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Yeah, if we jump early, we put ourselves at risk because
Mm-hmm.
we didn't get full confirmation.
Sure.
You don't want to create a habit of, where you start to go off your gut.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's why the indicator is letting them kind of fall through.
Okay.
The difference is we can see the buy signal came later.
Mm-hmm.
If you had it right there, you wouldn't have known until this candle over here. But with the moon gave you an earlier candle, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
about 1, 2. That's about 30 minutes earlier. You would have got an alert via email or something, letting you know that there's a trade. That it just gives you 30 more minutes to get to your trade,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
the percentages are going to work out no matter what we do. We just want to have a system alerting us that these things are happening,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can see the patterns of
Okay.
things and
Yeah.
have them, it all play out. And we're going to break down the trade to where showing you kind of like scenarios, and you'll see what I mean by percentages. They're all going to work out anyway. So that's just kind of like, that's where the 15-minute ended up, everything going your way.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, a lot of people, that's a really good trade right there. So let's say we get to the point where you get the alert that you get by the time you get there. There's a buy signal. The moon's there, and the 15 minutes is at the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we go around. Okay, I'm going to. This is where I say you're not really out of a trade. There's always a pullback, right?
Yeah.
Get away from the pullbacks and a little more greedy. So let's pull this up here, and stuff in a rush trade or a trade that isn't, too late, because then you're actually buying against your position. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say the buy signal comes in, everything's running, and then you see that it's put right, and like, okay, I didn't get that first move, because remember, every move has a so even though what I mean by that is every trigger that tells us there's a move. So this move here, this first section is actually the moon. That's the first pump.
Okay.
Those then come in to let us know that there's a high value pump. And then there's this second move here. That's where we get this little spike, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, these two moves, this is the moon, and then this is the buy signal part, right? We have a pullback at the next 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is going to give us another opportunity to get into a position that we like, and still momentum coming along. And we skip up to 15 minutes. So this pullback here is simply the next 15-minute pullback.
Okay.
You have this nice, momentum push, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we go back here and take a look, you can see that the 15-minute pullback. And then when the 15 minutes starts to head up again, that puts you in this little buy zone right there. Which is a nice momentum that from the 15 minutes of that line right there.
Okay.
The only difference is at this point we've seen the momentum build. It's like snowball, stronger, longer. This is the pullback, and then that's the move.
Yeah.
That actually happens to be the move that most traders are going to do, and this is why the system is designed to find you the early increase.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you miss the first cycle, you come back. The next move is normally what traders are going to do, right? So if we take this and we do a breakdown of the trade, right? So it would be where most people will do a channel, right? You see all this.
Mm-hmm.
If I go and get a parallel channel and I simply go to the top, right, which is normally there's going to be spikes that here, and then there's a support that it finds. Right, so this is going to be something about right about here. Right, and
Mhm.
then I'm gonna pull that down to the bottom of the other support area. For this white a little bit thicker. So that's kind of where we can see that it was using this part as support.
Mhm.
Right? So Doom comes back, looks for support, comes through, and then what happens is it starts to be a resistance area down here. So the boards broke through, and a lot of guys would take the channel and say, okay, these are the top of the channel. So I had uh, resistance, right? So we'll use the resistance side, and then down here we'll use these arrows right here, especially further down the rest where it had support right here.
Mhm.
So that's going to be a panel fix, okay?
Yeah.
Now that we panel, you can see the white line here. Let me see if I can try to make this yellow. Okay. So you see the yellow lines. Let me get rid of these arrows. So what happens is, trade, like we always talk about, is there's triggers to trade, and there's reasons why people trade, and these are going to be kind of what it is. Now, here, and we can move this up a little bit, and we want to, yeah, right about there. These sections here. Okay, so we see the top of the channel, the yellow channel. We see the bottom. So we can see that it's simple practice to trade. They have their resistance. It comes down, hits the bottom, finds support, and then now we have this top to bottom yellow or orange box here, and it's a good color for this. Maybe like a paint, orange, and yeah. But that's our support resistance.
Mhm.
So as once people have the support resistance, what they're doing is they're going to find number at the bottom, right? So once they have some type of trigger that says this is going a certain direction,
Yeah.
which comes what they call market structure.
Okay. Okay.
Market structure is the very simple thing of higher highs, lower lows,
Mhm.
and then higher low, right? But you can see here, it comes down on support, it goes up, this is a high, it comes back, support, now it has a higher high. Then it comes back, and you can see that these lows are starting to, build. And you see these right here
Mhm.
starting to like move up, right? So that's what they call market structure. So lower, higher, low, higher, low, higher, low, higher, high, higher, high. And then you see it comes back down and it gets even again, right? So a lot of times what people do is once they see a support go once, twice, 3 times, then they'll say to themselves, okay, I'm going to set an entry at the support line at 25, 27.
Okay.
The reason why that's kind of important to understand is just if you're looking at something, this is where you can start anticipating, the moves that are possible even earlier. This make it where I'm seeing, you know, reason why these type of trades is because they don't have right, or they're doing a very low leverage like 5 or maybe 10, right?
Mhm.
And what they do is they have to gamble a little more. This is why traders always say it's okay to lose 5 out of 10 because at this point, the only reason why they're taking this trade is because it shows resist support, support. So 3 supports, and then they put the support buy in there and say, okay, this is showing that it's showing great support. And then the move to the top of the resistance is probably the next move that's going to happen. So
Mhm.
then we can measure that and say, okay, there's a possible 2.28 trade here, right? If you're
Mhm.
doing 10 cents, that's a 20 20 or 20% trade, right?
Yeah.
Well, when you're a trader and you're moving, say you're trading 10,000, it's not a bad trade to get 2 grand out of this, what we call the channel.
Mm-hmm.
But they're also putting a little more, they're kind of just their method is the bounce, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have to be a little more aggressive than we have to be because their leverage is 30 times less,
Okay.
right? So we use leverage to make up risk that you don't want to take,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that there's no real reason to put a buy signal support line until we are actually completely sure that there is a long trade that's coming. Okay.
Yeah.
Now for us, we see that during time here, the 1 hour is actually headed up. And so there's all types of signals that the trade's coming, but nothing that confirms
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we hit on this, and then we see here the blue line, we see the 2 hour here, right? Well, that is confirmation that we now have a momentum or trading zone. Are thinking about a trade for a long trade, right?
Yeah.
Now that we have confirmation, right, which is basically the system, and now then say, okay, here's the 2 hour, and now when we see a pullback, happens to be the 1 hour start to pull back, right? You can see that there was a pullback here that bounced, right?
Mm-hmm.
At 447.
Mm-hmm.
Little pullback here. You see how that little red
Yeah.
down?
Yeah.
And if it's once it bounces up here,
Mm-hmm.
remember what we talked about, right? We talk about 2 moves. First move, there's a bounce, and second move.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So what we could have done there is anticipated that after the first move, which created a level that it went down to, that was right here. That level ended up being 25.46.
Mm-hmm.
Could have seen that here and simply said, you know what? I'm gonna go for the retest on this pullback. So, an early position, right?
Mm-hmm.
So these are concepts of how a trader is going to go through their motion and how they would come up with their entries.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the first that they would use, which is the support entry. The second one would be a move up, the pullback, and the second pullback, which would give us this entry. And then for us, we just wait for the 1 hour to confirm. And you can see here, we get the 1 hour. Right? Now, what this does for us, it kind of takes us to where now we have this confirmation, and we also see 15 minutes as well. Then we can go in here and say, you know what, we actually have the confirmation. The next, then we can get into a trade and do around a high at 2,558, right? Held that trade, but at this point, we're patient, and patience got us where we know right. So now, just measure this out to see how we do here. That we got a bad entry at the high part of that, and we have a spike here, right? The spike with that little white box. So if we take that and just measure that out up to that bottom, you can see that we almost hit a 1% move just on that, right? And that's playing with the momentum, and we're expecting that. And then what happens is, as that starts to roll, we end up catching the next spike, which is what we wanted at 1.5. So we got everything that we wanted out of this first move, right? We got 1.5, which is if we're doing a 40x leverage, we can be more secure in the 40x. So we have all the momentum. And then hey, Lulu, what's up, Alex? And then from there, Morgan. And you can see that bounce comes in right there. So This puts us where we want to be. Swerving. Swerving. You got to get back in the Discord, bro. We got to get you on the live trades. So right here, we end up hitting our 1%. We do a 40x leverage. You're going to hit your 40x for your profit right there. So that's a right there. Pretty solid, pretty simple. Now, once that first trade happened, we go through and we see where we have our buy signals, right? The buy signals have a push. What do we always say? That there's going to be two moves, right? So here you have the buy signal push, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting the buy signal pullback, right?
Yeah.
And that puts again to where we're looking for another entry. Okay. So now we look at this. We can see that now that we have our two moves, we know what we're having that's happening, and then we can adjust again. So here is that first one pullback that we're looking at, right? That BXR 25. And then once this breaks here, normal trading pattern, right, is going to be where what they're looking for is a break and then a support and then the next move up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it breaks, the candle doesn't set above there to create any support. It comes back down, finds support in the middle of the channel, right? And then it starts to, get its move up. So for us, as we're looking at this start to go through, this pullback here was simply the next 15-minute pullback, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have Franco. What's up, Franco? We actually understand what's coming, right? So once we know there's a 15-minute pullback coming because we just got buy signals for this first bump here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, pullback. We don't know how deep it's going to be, but we know that we're going to get a pullback. Then once we see that it's the pullback and it break down, we have targets. We target the middle of this pullback, which is all the way back down to this middle support zone. We can target in between the top and the middle, which would be this yellow bar here. So if we target that, there we go. That'd be my little puzzle piece. And then we can target the in between, which basically is the top of this yellow and the middle of the yellow, right? We have a full check. The bottom, the middle, the top. But we can target the middle, or we can say, you know what, this is picking up momentum. I'm gonna target from the top to target the middle section, right? That would put us at a buy zone somewhere around here. 25.65. You can see that pretty easily.
Yeah.
And then there, we start to roll. So all we're really doing is if we're waiting for the 15-minute, and we say we're going to just pick up 15 minutes to show us what's going on, right? We can double click here. You can see here the 15-minute moving thing starting to come up. We go back here once again. If we're setting the moon alerts, see that it's on a blue moon. It comes down. This would put you in a buy zone on this next candle, right? Where you're kind of in the high zone. So on this particular one, because you've already had the first move, your moon gave you an alert. This comes down. You've already seen that the value is holding. So what all you're really waiting for at this point with the 1 hour, 2 hour, everything happening, just the 15 minutes to start to break up, right? Which is in here. Right? And then you'd be picking this candle right here, somewhere in this point right here. So maybe 25. So you have good entry here. But I think you're at 25.71.
25.71. Yeah.
So now that's kind of like watching a trade develop
Mm-hmm.
and then to get in. So now the next thing that most traders are going to do is they're going to look for a break above the support or resistance. They're going to wait for a retest of that, and then that's where they would make their trade. So now they said this candle broke above. It's settled above. What they're waiting for right now is a double move again, right? So what they're waiting for is the break above.
Mm-hmm.
They're waiting for a retest, and then they're going to be looking for the Ethereum to make a bounce from.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we're already seeing the push. We see the 15-minute retest, and then we'd be somewhere here, which you did a good job getting in at 25, 71. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you have this nice little breakout here that for 1.5%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, in your 40x leverage, once again, you're doing an 80% gain. So you hit your 40 again, a low hour. So what? So go over your trade. I know you said you were kind of like confident, but then you made a trade and then went. So what happened with the trade?
So
I see where you entered. Let me delete these. I see where you entered. I see where you posted your entry, but I don't. Yeah, end result there.
yeah, and I went to sleep. I end up going to sleep, and so it took me out at my stop loss. So I had so let me go. I don't remember the number. Let me go back. But it was I had put a 30% stop loss.
Now that we're gonna go back, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to your. I think your entry was here. Somehow you have a entry. Yeah, I think you were in this green box.
Mm-hmm.
It takes down to that little corner right there. See if you let's measure this that wick. If that wick got you, it's right about there. Okay. I don't know if we're gonna have to look at this because you should have. Yeah. Are you sure was your stop loss 20 or was it 30?
I want to say it was 30%. Because it don't tell me. I got to do a better job of recording. So now that I know these things, I'll write these things down because I want to keep a journal of my trades.
Keep track of everything for you.
Yeah.
Learning the data is just how to, put your trade in there.
Yeah.
Go back to your trade order history.
Okay.
It should have where it stop loss you. Like it'll tell you like, let me see. Should be a section where you can click the little it's like a pyramid on there. And it'll say like so to get your banner, right? You see there?
Right. That's what I was gonna ask you. How do I get to post the
Facebook, X, and then has a save.
where?
On the bottom of the banner, right?
Huh?
Where you post it. You can post it on Facebook, Twitter, and then it has a save, like an original computer save disk.
I don't see that. So I'm on the futures page. And so where do I go from the futures page? Okay, let me go back into order history. Okay.
It's gonna start with futures. It's gonna check your leverage.
Yeah, futures. Okay. Ma'am, no. Okay. Okay, I'm on the futures page, but I don't see anything about Facebook. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
The first thing says futures. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The next says order time.
The next says all for me. It says futures, all type, and limit or market.
Okay, so futures orders side type average, and then you'll say P and L. You see P and L?
Yes.
P and L. Do you see the little three dots connected like an arrowhead?
No. When I can't find something.
You see my let me see. Am I sharing my screen? Do you see my screen?
No, I don't see. I just see the chart.
Yeah. What do you see now?
Still the chart. Okay, now I see your page, your big units page, yeah.
Once you go to order history,
Okay.
you should have this. Is your the whole thing open?
Yeah, I'm on my phone, so I'm not on the computer. So maybe that makes a difference.
Yeah. It'd be a little different.
Okay, because I'm not on my computer. Okay, so I need to be on the computer. Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh, okay, okay, okay. All right. So I'll post that next time.
There's a third option. It looks like a computer.
Mm-hmm.
You just click save.
Okay.
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 To your documents. And then you can go to your documents, which is on my computer, it's download. Or you can just hit file here.
Mm-hmm.
Open it. It's going to give you the it's saved it as an image.
Yeah.
Right. So then what you do is you post this image in Discord.
Mm-hmm. Yes, got it. Yes.
It's gonna have your entry price.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna have
Okay, good. So it has everything. Okay. All right. So I'll do that.
yeah. So what's your closing price for that?
So my closing price. Do I see see on my phone? I don't see a closing price.
Yeah, you have to do it on the computer.
Yeah, yeah. I can't get on the computer right now. That's why I had to.
So in the computer, you have all this information.
Mm-hmm.
So if you keep going to the far back, there's a place called Attribute to the right.
Okay.
You have everything. So it'll say P&L, say, okay, here's the price, right? 25.3, right? It has all the little things, but that little three dots is gonna give you your information as far as your entry, your close.
Oh. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So that's what we need to know where you close. Because I'm not showing that you should actually, if depending on how it entered. I mean, I'm looking at the entry, right, which is 2571. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So 571. Let me change the sharing of the screen to Ethereum. Hey, doctor. What's up, Dr. D? So now that I'm here, I can see that your entry at 25.1 was during a push.
Mm-hmm.
That was the 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The did pull back, right?
Yeah.
But if I go your entry, which is the 2571, I go to where the pullback was, right, is a 0.58. So if you were doing 40x leverage,
Mm-hmm.
that would be close to maybe so the 0.5% would be 20. So this is probably 27%, 26.
Oh, so maybe I didn't do 40 eggs. Oh, I can't tell. I don't like to. Yeah.
The information.
Yeah. Yeah. I will.
Take a look at this. But now that we have the kind of like the breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
This is where mathematics and the main part of the system is when you find an area where you decide that you have a trade.
Yeah.
Right. You need to estimate your overall move. So
Okay.
have the original channel, which is in yellow. Okay, here's the
Mhm.
channel.
Mhm.
Top, bottom. We have the middle of the channel. Okay,
Mhm.
we have the 2 hour that gave our first alert, okay, which we're going to look at. Then we get the 1 hour. Okay,
Mhm.
which means that here we're getting into a trade, and this should have been somewhere. The entry should have been somewhere in here, but
Mhm.
we're going to stay entry. So what happens is when you decide that you got an entry, and you say, okay, I'm going to enter here. What you have to do is from your entry point,
Okay.
do 2571 for
Mhm.
that area,
Mhm.
and you would estimate, okay, if I enter, remember the box we did, right? So let's do a 1% box. So go make your long position 1%, right?
Okay.
Remember, did this, make it 1%,
Mhm.
okay? And all I have to do is I go make a box, the top of it,
Mhm.
the yellow line,
Yeah.
and then I make it some color that I would use. So we're just gonna keep this free.
Okay.
And and then now I don't need to keep moving this around to find 1%.
Ah.
Simply don't drag it from the blue boxes or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
Change it. Now you can make it longer, you can make it wider if you want. Just don't change the height,
Yeah.
right? So grab it and then say, okay, if I enter here, right? See how the top line
Mhm.
reads?
Mhm.
If I at 2571,
Mhm.
that this downward move here,
Mhm.
that's a move, right?
Okay.
So which means that I'm gonna take my box, I'm gonna turn it red right there so we see it. What that means is from this top of this box to the bottom of this box, right? What that's going to be is my 1% move,
Yeah.
meaning that 40x leverage, right? And I entered here or on this higher candle, that means that my stop loss will pull back to here, liquidate me at 40%.
Mhm.
So if you're doing a 40x leverage, you got to say, okay, I normally like to have multiple supports here. So this only gives me the one support, which is the yellow middle line here.
Mhm.
And that's one support. So that means that, and it's okay because we're in the middle of momentum. Another thing of being having the 2 hour, the 1 hour, it means that even if it pulls back, it shouldn't be as big as a pullback as most pullback.
Okay.
And that's because we have the momentum with them. And so what we can't is say, okay, this is my pullback. This is going to be my support zone line here. So what I need to do here is I need to make sure that when this pulls back, that it bounces off of that zone and goes up. Right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, normally I like to have two types of supports. Okay.
Okay.
And here you can see where the white arrows are that this is where the first move hit, it pulled back and then
Mhm.
moved up and then pulled back again. So this white line, remember the white line we created
Yeah. Yeah.
every point. So this white line actually, I could say to myself, like, okay, if that is my previous line of support. So I have a middle support, and it showed me a couple hours ago that this line here as support, because that's where I was thinking about having.
Yeah.
So then I could say to myself, man, I'm sitting right on two supports at the
Mhm.
lower end of my pullback, right?
Mhm.
So I would rather get more of an entry down here so that the middle of my pullback, right? Yeah, that middle of the box right there.
Mhm.
The middle of my box would actually give me a 20. I'm doing a 40x leverage. I'm doing 40% stop. This middle would be 20% stop loss.
Okay.
And I can say to myself, you know what? Let's set an entry point, and I'm going to put it here. I need to get in 25.60. If I get in at 25.68, that gives me a pullback out from that level to there, and then from there is only 20%, and that would be a bound. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's how you can estimate your position, because getting in up here, you're at the high end of a group,
Mm-hmm.
and that it doesn't have enough support if it doesn't pull back to allow you to have two bounces. Here, if it breaks there, it comes. Let's say it breaks the middle, comes down to the white line here. That's my second support. That puts me at about 32% stop loss, but I still have a little bit of room there. But that gives me a an extra life, an extra lifeline.
Okay.
So that's a way to estimate a possible entry in the worst case scenario. Now, with all that, you can turn around and say, okay, I'm going to wait for this next pullback, and then let the 15 minutes start to pull back, which is what we saw happen in the this section here. And then when it starts to reverse,
Mm-hmm.
we can entry. And now that we already know that this red box is our pullback zone, when this starts to head up, we can get in at 25.62, 25.64, 25.66, because we already estimated that the pullback that happened, if it does another pullback from here, which would be unlikely, we have plenty of room to bounce. So you see how that worked out for us?
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think so I'm so glad we having this conversation because I'm doing this all wrong. Well, not the looking at the 2 hour, the 1 hour, not setting up my trade. But when it comes down to being on BitNet, the exchange and making the trade, because I'm looking right here and I'm getting ready to send this to I'm gonna send you a picture of this. So it says that I got in this trade at 2557.86. I don't know what the other page was talking about, but this is showing me now this order history, position history is showing me that I got in at 2557.86, and it's saying that I got out at, at 2568.48. Now, I was looking at this as when it said 9.97%. I'm like, I feel so dumb right now. I feel so dumb because I was like, I'm only supposed to be, I'm thinking about my 1%, like 40x 1%. And so when I seen this 9.9%, I'm like, how did it jump up that fast? Um, and so, and then this is just a 30x. This is not a 40x. So I see now on here the you have to change your 10x, 20x, 30x, 40x. They're separate. And so when you're going long,
That's because a lot of times there's a reverse.
okay.
A lot of people will go from a long to a short.
Okay.
And they will put more leverage on a short because shorts are pull back a lot faster than a long goes up.
Okay.
Than it is to go long. Because a lot of times people use 40x leverage long, but 60x leverage short.
Okay. Okay. And it was I think I looked at the 40x. I thought that was my long, but okay, I'm learning here. um, but yeah, so that that's what that's what I did here. I don't know. So I'm glad we talking about this so I can do better.
Whereas a 40% leverage is that expensive. The 40 you can trade $10. The leverage doesn't change the money. So when you take the course, the only thing you need when you go to trade is you want to start with like 25, maybe $50. If you got a bigger bag, you can start with 100. But we don't want to do anything more than 100. because we're learning. So you got to be very like, starting out. But a lot of people start with $50, 50 or 25. I mean, I was actually thinking about doing a. Let me take a look at this test. Okay, so I was looking at you made 9%.
So is that okay? Yeah, because I was just confused. I was confused. I didn't think. I thought. Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking.
Sure, and at least you found it.
Okay.
You made 18%. That's this position P&L.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so that you made plus $18.
Uh-huh.
So you made $18. So you made 9%.
Oh, okay. 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 So I wasn't looking at it wrong.
No, so okay. So your trade. So you won the trade.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay. So basically, your plus P&L. You're plus $18.
Mm-hmm.
To the right, you can see that you did a 9.97% return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
You entered at 2557, which makes sense because when you posted, it was a lot earlier than that. I
Mm-hmm.
said you should 2557, which
Mm-hmm.
actually is correct.
Oh, see. So I did enter at the right place.
Yeah. And then you closed at 2556. So I don't know. Did you manually close this?
I did because I was going to sleep and I was like I don't want to have to watch it, and that's why I know the stop loss is there.
Yeah.
But I'm new to this and I was just like, just gonna close because I'm going to bed and maybe I should have left it open and let it hit my stop loss.
Yeah, I mean, you were up. Okay, so 25. Okay, this is big more sense. So we have you at 415, right?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it would be the 315. Right?
Okay.
More sense. That's where originally we had you.
Okay.
You on the next candle, right? As you move through,
Mm-hmm.
you end catching the 2557, which is that candle down here.
Okay.
Let's see. 415 would be here. So yes, I'm saying, okay, you got that. There you go. So you hit the 415 candle.
Mm-hmm.
You posted, which is the 250, 255.
557.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
we've been there,
Mm-hmm.
and what that gave you was the first spike hit almost the 30% profit. What
Okay.
would you take?
Huh?
What was the take profit on that? So you put it okay. So picking
I
out,
don't know. Where do I see a take profit at? Because I don't know. I could.
yeah, I'm just looking at
Because I just put a little money in the account so I could practice with. So I haven't really been keeping up with like dollar amounts.
yeah. So I mean, but that's like that was a good entry. Yeah. So your target was did you target a 30%?
Yes, that's what I was trying to do, but I was looking at the ROI and I was saying that thinking about what I've heard, what I've learned from you is our target is the 1%. And so I knew I was like I can get out of this trade because I'm seeing 9.9% and I'm like I'm way over like I
It was right.
okay.
Right? When there was a big spike before that pullback.
Uh-huh.
And it would have been basically for your trade, you went from here to here.
Okay.
So for you, you actually hit your 1.5% move.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what you're seeing is the 9% ROI. So what we're doing is that is where you want to see 30.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. 'Cause I was like,
Now talking about is on the chart, we need a 1%.
yes.
And then when you're looking at your phone, it's time multiplier.
Yes. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yes.
30% on your return of
Okay. 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 That makes more sense. Now I know. Like I told you, I'm learning. I'm learning.
so you basically so I mean made the trade, you entered where you're supposed to enter,
Yes.
and then your target of 30% profits was right there. So you hit that.
So I missed I shouldn't have closed it.
Yeah, you just let it ride.
Just let it ride. Just use my stop loss and let it ride. Okay, well at least I'm knowing how to like I'm targeting where to get in at. So I'm happy about that.
There's your 2558.
Yeah.
You entered there, and then it ended up reaching this mark right here, which
Mm-hmm.
is the 1%
Yeah.
trade. So that's 1 times 30x leverage. 30%.
That's why I was like, it hit this so fast. Oh my God.
Yeah, your return on investment, that on your phone is telling you
Yes.
the time of your multiplier.
Yes.
30, 60, and 90.
That's what I want to see 30 at. Gotcha. 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 Okay. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Times your multiplier.
Okay. 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 See that. That's mm-hmm. Okay.
So 2558, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's simply 5
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
see that based on the red box area, you could have had a pullback that literally went from this corner all the way down to here,
Mm-hmm.
percent stop loss.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
You can see that handle that seconds. Here to even like stop loss. At
Mm-hmm.
that point, you can see that there's you have your 2 stop loss here, plus you're trading with the momentum. But the
Okay.
odds of that having there,
Okay.
yeah, I mean that's the trade you want.
Okay. Well, I'm glad.
30%.
Okay. And so I did want to ask you because I do see where I think I may, you said that we're gonna trade to my style and what, I like to do. And I do think that I may enjoy shorts better than longs. And so with shorts, when you're doing a short, where does my so am I going by the blue moon with a short?
Yeah.
It's a blue moon with a short, and but what about the RSI? You still need the momentum in the RSI to be okay.
So you build a long,
Mm-hmm.
and so remember everything's 2 moves, right?
Yes.
So when you build the long, okay, we use the fifth. Remember that the first pullback is a 15-minute pullback,
Yeah.
okay, And what we mean by that is once you see a long bill, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna things here. Here's the green moon.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the value.
Yeah.
Here's the first blue moon,
Mm-hmm.
which creates that small pullback.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is blue moon number one.
Mm-hmm.
We would be looking for the second blue moon.
Yes. Yes.
We get this pullback.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
It's not the full pullback. What that pullback is, that is the take profit retrace. Okay, that's a standard pullback that happens. That the people who were playing, remember earlier they were playing this support line.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing the three supports on this line here,
Mm-hmm.
they wanted two.
Mm-hmm.
Their position when it reached the top of the channel, like we were talking about,
Mm-hmm.
gave them 2%. They're doing 10x.
Yeah.
They made their 20%. So once they made their 20%, right, that's where we see the second blue moon come in. That creates the first set of profit taking, which is normally what we call the pullback short. That's the short that we look for to get this move here. Okay, which is basically a profit taking move, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where there's some the early guys who got in on the earlier side, they're pulling back to get their profits because they've hit their mark, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not a full one move. Normally, it's going to average a 0.6 to 0.8.
Okay.
That's why on pullbacks we use higher leverage.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
we're using more something like 60% leverage, so that if this only moves back 0.5,
Mm-hmm.
we hit 30%. So on this pullback, we just needed to go and do a simple 0.5%. Right?
Okay.
This, right? And this creates, the opportunity, no matter where we get in here, we're going to have a 0.5% move.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to create our 30% profit and get out, and then wait for the bounce, which is basically what happened here. And now we're in a position that once we get that price taking position,
Mm-hmm.
see, like it's a normal average when they do a pullback. It's going to be about 5%. But this is the main one we want because it's a big push.
Yeah.
This second one, what we'd be waiting for is the pullback, and then when this bounces, wherever this gets to, the next time that this starts to come down,
Mm-hmm.
right, this move, that's the next one that we'd be looking to short, because this basically is at exhaustion. So it had its first leg right here.
Mm-hmm.
This is the second leg, and this is the double top. And then that's it. So you ever see a pattern where people say, look for an M?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what that's doing.
Mm-hmm. And so with this short, the one that we would with this at the second moon. Can you go back to the second moon? So would you have gotten in at the first moon, or would you have waited for your entry at the second moon?
So like I said, everything's a double move.
Right.
Once we first push,
Okay.
and then we pull back, and then we see that second push.
Mm-hmm.
That's the leg that we're looking for. We're looking
Okay.
for, okay.
Mm-hmm.
When the double move, that's where we look for them after a double move. We're looking for them to actually take profit, which is this first pullback, that second blue move. Right, that's where we got that first pullback. That's the first 15 pullback.
Mm-hmm.
The blue moon, but we're also using the 15-minute as a pullback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's open this up a little bit so we can take a look at just that particular trade. All right, so now, just like we were waiting for the 15-minute moon to go up,
Yeah.
you see how and you see where the 15-minute broke the 80 right there?
Yeah.
Starts to come down.
Mm-hmm.
So the 15-minute is heading down. The only thing we need is confirmation that the volume is giving up, and that would have been a signal on the blue moon alert.
Okay.
And then that's where we'd be looking.
Okay.
So that's just something to kind of like watch right now until it makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the main trade that we're looking for,
Yeah.
which is the big one,
Mm-hmm.
is we're looking 1 hour to come down. What's happening now?
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Let's see.
yeah, this is the trade that we're kind of looking for.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The thing is to get the 1 hour to start to come back.
Oh, cause my one, you saying the 1 hour is down? Oh yeah, it's not down. Okay, it's not down yet, but it's coming. Yeah. Mm-hmm. 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 Right.
We need the 2 hour to get to the 80 line. 1 hour and 15 minutes to be heading that direction. And that starts our shorts. Let's go back to when there was actually a short, right? So which is this prior to this last move, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here, I can move this blue line. So now I'm going to take this blue, and you can see right there the 80 line on the 20 broke here. Okay, this candle.
Mm-hmm.
When that
Mm-hmm.
break that happened, let's do the 4 hour. We'll see if the 4 hour broke as well. So, oh yeah, so here's the 4 hour. The blue right there. So that's our 4 hour break.
Yeah.
See how
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Now we need the 2 hour, which is white. There we go. And you can see the 2 hour. This is where the 80 broke right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's the beginning of letting us know what's happening. Right?
Oh.
Now, if we go to the 1 hour.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at this pullback here, we can see that the 1 hour broke the 80 here, created that first pull. And notice how the second move here, the 1 hour didn't even reach the top.
Mm-hmm.
To pull down. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that right there, if you look at it, that's the beginning of the 1 hour showing weakness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just slowly
Yeah.
makes its way. Now during that time, we can see that the 2 hour that was right here. So here is I'm going to drop a red arrow so that we can find this pretty quickly on the chart. We can see right here, this is where the 2 hour started to give up. 1 hour dollar.
Right.
Down. 4 hour gave us this move here. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If we go to our 15 minute, okay, on our red arrow. This path here, this we don't need it here. Okay. So now we can see that the 2 hour broke here. Right? What do we have? We have the first move. What happens after the first move? Bounce. Where's the second move?
Yeah.
Which basically, watching here, you can see once the 2 hour happened, there's the 15 minute. We wait for the 15 minute to come back up. And then when the 15 minute crosses again, that's where we'd be looking to get our report, which would be literally right here.
You say that would be our what?
So here's your move, right?
Yeah.
2 hours comes in. The 15 minute RSI goes down.
Yeah.
It's his first move. Okay. Now, not a bad move. I mean, if we measure it out, this comes down, and this is just to show you on average. Once again, notice that we're working on a 0.5%. That your leverage has to be higher because these moves are quicker.
Sure.
So we get first 15 minute pullback. We let the 15 minute then bounce, which is right here. Okay, we let that bounce bounce happened, right? The last green bounce.
Mhm.
And then when the 15-minute starts to come back down again, which happens here, right? This is where we start looking for the real entry to the next pullback right here. So
Mhm.
up here.
Okay. Got it.
So that would put us where we'd be looking, off this pullback, we'd be getting into this short, something around 25.76.
Mhm.
And that's where we ended up getting our
Okay.
Yankees pull period. And then during the pullback, you can see that there was a section here where there was a small bounce,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden it finished itself, finishing its route because the 4 hours finally came in. But because the main thing, which is the daily, right? If we look at remember, you're trading with momentum of the bigger, right? But I go to my daily, all right, and I took a look here and I pulled, let's see if they pull it, right? But this is where you can see in here, we have our short right there, right?
Mhm.
But if you look at the daily, notice that right there, where that line is, that good line. Wait, let's move all these arrows up. Hey. Yeah, that. Okay. But right there, you see that's where the daily actually starts to head back up there.
Mhm.
So this move here, the daily is showing that the volume is weakening through here. So that's a small effect, but you can see right here, the daily's now starting to get into an uptrend,
Mhm.
which means overall, the long moves have possibilities of actually, breaking out, or their support is even strong. Less, and their bounces will have a little more bites in them
Okay.
because they're upset. But that's why the system that we have,
Mhm.
when people come on the inside of my Discord, we have an older system where we were a lot more aggressive,
Mhm.
and this system is chained down that even if we were fighting big brain like that,
Mhm.
we're still to get the position that we move because we're not going for grand only, we're going for base hits.
Okay.
Here on this first move down, if you get in there, I mean we're hitting a 0.6. So at the
Mhm.
end, you're doing a 60x leverage, you easily hit 30. If you catch that next move or stay in it, there's another move to the downside that gets you that
Mhm.
move. So I mean this is a 30 to 60 to 120% game
Mhm. Okay.
scenario. You just have to, when you start watching these trades, right? You're watching Ethereum and
Yeah.
you watch this. As you start to piece the longs together,
Mhm.
easier to see the shorts.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just looking. I'm not getting ready to short anything. I'm just looking. When I'm
You're
sorry.
just in a position where you're piecing together the
Yeah.
stuff that you're watching. It makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
Very simple thing that I'm a very, you know, I love the short because the one thing that about short is very simple, right? As you look at a chart, every time there's a pump, there's one thing
Mhm.
that is that people are going to take profits.
Yeah.
So, and you're going to see this. Ethereum's a little bit tougher
Mhm.
on the shorts, and that's why I have you on Ethereum and Solana.
Okay.
Solana better on the short side
Mhm.
because institutions like that are holding Ethereum
Mhm.
kind of affect the amount of the pullbacks that happen because they're not part of that,
Right.
right? So they hold their position. I don't know if you see Bitcoin and you see, all the retail investors and they're like panicking, oh, there's one of the rocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they all sell. And it goes from 107 or 103 or 105 down to 103. And everyone's like, oh, it's going to 80, going to 90.
Mm-hmm.
And the kids are afraid
Mm-hmm.
that they sell. Today,
Right.
still at 60,000, 69,000 with
Mm-hmm.
paper. We could have seen a $30,000 Bitcoin.
Wow.
Reality is, if the institutions owned
Mm-hmm.
half Bitcoin that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
even paper hands sell, the institutions aren't selling.
Yeah.
They're going to they're 10%, 20% boost, but you're not going to see an 8.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, that's why we don't trade Bitcoin, but now we're trading Ethereum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, and I had one more question with my Ethereum trade. So when I'm trading Ethereum on the exchange and I put in, my limit order and what the price that I want, that bar that you slide over to the side of how many Ethereums you want to trade, the percentage of each, the quantity bar.
So whatever your available margin is.
Oh, so go 100% all the time.
Well, no.
Oh,
It depends on your available margin.
okay.
If you let's say you put $100 in and you say, okay, I'm going to do $100 trades, where you should be.
Okay. Yes.
You would be moving it to like 99% because you're using 100% of that available
Okay.
$100.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, let's say you hit your stop loss and you lose 30, you should be doing at least 35 to 40%.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you hit stop loss, you lose $40.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to your spot and then you move $40 over again so that you still have 100.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now when you win a trade and you make $40 or $30,
Mm-hmm.
you take 30 and then transfer 30 back to spot.
Oh, okay.
But it's $100 because you're trading 100%.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Got it.
Get to the next level, you put $200 in there. And
Okay.
then of the 200.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Then eventually you'll start to learn that you can have $600 in there,
Mm-hmm.
and know that the first trade that you're doing would be 30% of the 600 because you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it. And then the next trade you do, you would set at 50% because there's 400 in the wallet and you're going to use half of it, which would be 200. And then your third trade would be 99% because what's left is 200.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It
Gotcha.
doesn't their own percentages.
Okay.
600 is 50% of 4. If you take 2 from 6, it leaves 4.
Right.
Your trade would be 50% because you need 2, and the last trade would be that because that's what's available.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay.
Pretty good.
Yes, this was the best class ever today. Yeah.
Like the first 4 days, is just seeing how to find the basic setup.
Mm-hmm.
Day 6, you found a great setup, and then if you stayed in the trade,
Yes.
so I mean, now you're in day 6. From day 6 to 7 trade, which did great. But day 7 is like, now it's like, okay, how do I'm posting now? So I'm posting correctly.
Yeah.
How do I put banner? Okay, where did and now that you got, that part down, and when you post in the Discord, we can start seeing
Mm-hmm.
the actual trades like manifest.
Mm-hmm.
That now now that you know how to post, now we'll see more, right? So now what you're doing, you did a great job on ADA, and then, you did a great job, and then you've seen where it didn't cross, so you realize ADA lost its value.
Mm-hmm.
that was in a golden pocket,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So if most traders would have made that trade and they would have lost because they didn't have the momentum. And then there you are fucking Ethereum. You waited for the cross, you got the cross,
Mm-hmm.
you did everything you were supposed to do, and it was a great trade. So now it's just like, okay, I did post my banner. Okay, how do I get my banner? Now you have that. How you're now, today it's a good class because it's like, oh, okay, this really isn't that hard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now that I can do these simple steps.
Yeah.
Now I did not that. Right now on day 7, you pretty much have the groundwork, figured out. So
Mm-hmm.
now all this down to is data. So now when you make trades, we see how they go. We get the data. We fix the entries. We fix the leverage. And then eventually, while we're doing that over the next 10, 20 trades, then you develop a completely 1, 2, 3 step that makes sense. Where are my alerts? My 15 minutes. I got my crossings. I got my moves. Okay, entry. Once you have all that together, and then here's my entry zone. Okay, what will be my pullback? Do I have 2 supports? This looks really good, right? And then the rest of it is just adjusting the leverages and the entries, and then that's pretty much that's just that's the easy shit. Right now, you have the system in your head. Now you understand that it's working.
Yeah.
But now we just, we collect data off the net trades and start, slowly critiquing, entries and, leverages and stop losses. And then once you understand the basics of making sure you have 2 levels of support, make trade, you start to see that, okay, that makes sense, right? Because then you can start weeding out trades that are a little more risky and say, you know what, let me wait for a pullback. If it doesn't pull back, then I'll just wait for a different trade. But if it pulls back a trade like we saw on Ethereum, waiting for that 15-minute to come back, but that was based off getting into a bad trade. You actually got in at the better price. So that wasn't even like something that would have been your issue, but it would have been, for people to learn that if they were in that position, they could have just waited it out and then got the better entry on the.
Good.
So now that you've kept all these formulas, in your head, now it just comes down to you like just literally, working the same steps over and over until it just becomes this is what it is. Next 7 days, the next 7 days, the first 7 was just understanding what you're going to do. The next 7 is just doing what you just learned.
Yeah.
That's execution. And then so then the next 7 after that is just tweaking to improve the percentages. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Solana and ETH are the ones I'm looking at.
So I mean, take let me look at did you see your DJ coin?
I did.
How you doing on that?
I'm doing okay on that. I'm up right now. I haven't looked at it today. I was up last night. I don't know what it is right now. Yeah. Oh, okay.
But still, I think you were in at like.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
That should be. Would you do 500?
Yeah.
Yeah, check it out. See where you're at. I was telling my buddy last night. I was like, so the next thing for you is anytime you see those, like we seen it like last night, it was like 9 cents. So you got something like, you might have been close to 3,200.
Oh, yeah. Last night I was when I looked at it last night, it was like at 2,000 at some point.
If you see like that's kind of so the mean points, right? We don't do a lot of them, but we do the ones that like high percentage possibility. So
Mm-hmm.
always make sure when you see, a spike like that, especially a double or like a triple, that was a
Mm-hmm.
4x, that you sell 25%.
Okay.
Okay, because you want to take out your initial.
Okay. All right.
That becomes house money and there's no risk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's how my buddy, anytime you see something when you're at a 4x, I mean, take out half. And then if there is a pullback, you can take your initial and then put 25% back on the pullback.
Okay.
That gives you, another entry of like, okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
taking a big move, now if it does what it did the other day, that means that 25% is going to double or maybe triple. Now I'm getting an extra 25 or 50% on that portion. And then if it does it again, then you take out, 25% again,
Okay.
now your money, or now your house money,
Yeah. Yeah.
slow extracting $500 at a time.
Exactly.
I tell people like, meme coins are like, that's a whole different type of animal because it takes a lot of like, it's a lot of fun. It's really not that hard, but it really does the understanding of what you're doing. And this is why taking profits and all those things are very important. Is because it's when you put 500 in a meme coin and you see it do a 1x, 2x, you're supposed to take out your initial so that way you don't lose money.
Mm-hmm.
If it makes a big move, you take out half, and then when it pulls back, you put 25% back. And you're like, okay, I got my initial, here's 25%. Let me see, it moved again.
Mm-hmm.
Here's an extra two. I make another 500. Okay, so I'll take another half. I'll keep 25%. It pulls back. I'll put 25% back in. And then it makes another. If it makes a real big spike, then at that point you sell 75%. Then you sit back and okay, it falls back. I'll put 25% back.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got your initial, double up, and then two double up. So now you're 4x. So now you go from 500, now you got 2,000 in your pocket, right? And this way, it's like, as you play the coins, if you get into a coin, it always has some type of double up. And as long as you're on the double up, you take at least half of your entry back. Like, all right, I got I doubled up, I'll take 25%, back at or 20. And then if it keeps moving up, take another 20.
Right.
And then if it gets rug pulled, you're like, but at least you got at least half your money out.
Yes.
Or all out. And then if you do it 10 times, odds are you're going to get even 7 of them rug pull you while you're taking out half. It's 3 of them, it's a 3 to 5x. You're still up 5.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Point, you might get one that does something outrageous where 500 becomes 5 grand. You're like, dang, that was I mean, like last night the 500 was 2,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I should have took profit last night. I didn't.
So it's like, you're still up now. It's like 20%, 25% up. Like you just kind of like milk it out. But you do become a profit taker.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it does something crazy, and you're like, oh, it's 530, then you grab 75%, and you're like, okay. I mean, at that point, you're winning. That gives you could get into 7 more meme coins.
Right.
And if one does something crazy where it turns 500 into 30,000, you're like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where people they do meme coin, but they always hold like every coin is going to go to the moon. It don't work like that.
Yeah, I was trying to share. I knew one of the. I got a nurse who want to do this trading class. Soon. She said soon, but she wanted to buy the Degen coin, but I didn't know how to share the. You know how there's so many coins that say Degen, but I didn't know how to share the right address, and I was looking for the one you sent me, and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I'll send it to your message.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see.
because my time is winding, it's down now. It's time to go and make the donuts.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, find out that you're at the point where, um, like in the beginning, because it's like, okay, I'm learning, and now
Mm-hmm.
you're like, yeah, it's good, great. Like now you're like, it's what's supposed to happen, and now you're seeing it happen. And now it's just executing on, how it's happening, right? So you're
Mm-hmm.
just getting where it's like it's just all clicking, and now it really comes down to just, it's like baking a cake. You do it over and over. You're like, you know what? I'm gonna use a better flour. You know what? Let me
Yeah.
this here. Let me add. Eventually, it becomes the best. The cake that you're making. It's more moisture. But that's where you're at. Now it all makes sense, and now it's just executing it. So the more you execute it, the more you'll see the result.
Mm-hmm.
The more you get, the more you can tweak it, and then once you tweak it, the good thing is the tools. Now that you're at this level, the tools will allow us to tweak the tools, whether we need more leverage or less leverage. Where to put and that adjusts your stop losses, right? So once we start using the tools to tweak, you don't have to get better at your injuries right away, but you will become better at your injuries. So that as we're tweaking, you're still winning, you're still executing, and then your injuries get better over time, and eventually then you can tweak back up, and then you're like, all right, this is my average, this is how I do, and then we
Mm-hmm.
can just tools to tweak the numbers that we need to get the results that we want.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's great. You feel. I mean, you're like the first couple of days a lot
Yes.
different.
Absolutely. Abs. Yes, absolutely. I feel so much better because now I do see that I'm learning. Like I get it and I'm able to connect and I see the importance of the momentum and the importance of volume and when, to make my alerts on my moons and, to utilize the tools that you've given me. So when I can connect those type of dots, it's good for me because I'm a why type of I'm a nurse and so I ask questions and when I don't have a place where I can go and ask those questions, I either stop, I get discouraged and I move away from it, um oh, yeah, I need answers to questions because I can't move forward without it, like, and I need evidence for me, show me the evidence. And like this is showing me the evidence. Like everything you say that's gonna happen, it pretty much happens as long as I stick with the system. As long as I stick with the system, it pretty much goes through, like you say. So
I mean, it goes through what is the ending, and you can just see different indicators that
mm-hmm.
you different times that you can take advantage of a opportunity.
Yeah.
And now it's I'm working the moons and I'm working the buy signals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, where would my pullback be, right? And then once you figure out that a moon, then there's a slight pullback, and then a buy comes, and then there's a pullback, right? Then you start seeing like all the times that you could jump in and take advantage of a move, right? And so you start developing, you start seeing the pattern, you're like the winning pattern yourself.
Yeah.
It makes start setting your alerts the way you want them, so that it kind of like lets you know of, okay, I need this, I want to know when this happens, then I have 30 minutes, I know I have an hour, okay, this is where I'm going to enter, here's where I'm going to target, and then eventually you just kind of like, you just set up the way you want to operate.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It doesn't get sense to your brain
Mm-hmm.
how you're operating. And on
Mm-hmm.
there's 100 different ways to get a cat, but again, once we do it, and we do it all different ways, we all end up with a skin cat. But
Yep.
it's the way it makes sense to you,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
The difference in what we teach is that it comes down to your processing of your thought. Because it's easier for you to understand what you're seeing than trying to understand what I'm seeing.
Got it. Yep.